My name's Scott Christian, and I'm a co-founder of Hilltop Studios, and I'm one of the co-directors on Lil Guardsman.
I'm Matt Bernard. I'm a writer and game designer for Lil Guardsman.
My name's Armin Komarov, and I'm one of the co-founders of Hilltop and one of the co-game directors with Scott on Lil Guardsman.
So who are some of the major players in the world of Lil Guardsman? Lil is obviously at the center of the story, in the center of the world. She lives in a tavern. She lives above a tavern, so the people who work there, her dad is, I'd say, the second most significant character. And she's interacting with princesses, with mages, with the leaders of rival nations. So it goes from being this very sort of naturalistic interior story with the people she organically encounters, and then these epic folks.
The advisors are three figures in the world of the Sprawl that Lil can call on for help when she's doing a guard shift. And they are Lieutenant Stryker, who is the captain of the Guard Corps and technically Lil's boss. Councilwoman Ash, who is a big mover and shaker in the political scene of the Sprawl. And then there's Malcolm, last name redacted, the Jester, who is just chaos personified.
Hello! Welcome to my lair of chaos.
It looks like a bedroom.
It is his damn bedroom.
It can be two things. I'm a minimalist.
One of the first characters that you encounter is Mrs. Abernathy, who is the character you interrogate in the tutorial, and she is a sweet old lady. There's sort of little else to her character.
I'm bringing a basket of baked goods to my family.
Another honest character the player can decide to let through is a character by the name of Buttface, who is a 8-bit farmer from Fireball Canyon. And he's honest. He's coming to the Sprawl for a reason. That reason, though, if you do let him in, will hinder the Sprawlians and the civilization of the game.
There's a character that's been with us since the first prototype, since day one when me and Artem were dreaming up this game, named Magnus the Magnificent. And Magnus is a mage coming to the library. That's who he presents to be. But it is so obvious that he is just two goblins in a trench coat.
Is there any way we could move this along? My legs are very sore from standing here.
Your legs are sore?
The way that the Sprawl is laid out is it's based on a couple of historical references. One of the big ones we took was this location's gone now called Kowloon City, which was kind of this policy project run amok, but it was all these buildings kind of cramped together. And the idea of the Sprawl is everyone is sort of bunched on top of each other. The buildings rise vertically up. And then something we wanted to work into the Sprawl that Scott and I talked about early on with the development is this like far-ranging fantasy space. So that we have a lot of different historic references that we use. There's kind of a Colosseum in the center. There's sort of like a typical kind of like fantasy Viking tent in one of the corners outside the Sprawl. But it's all kind of meant to be this big mishmash where you are kind of going through these winding alleys and this big fantasy space where all the characters are coming together, this crush.
Everything in our game should have about a 70-30 split of medieval fantasy and then 30% something else, 30% like a twist. And the twist is usually sort of 80s technology. So it's it's medieval torture devices meets fax machine. So I'd say in terms of the world design, it's 70% a medieval walled city and 30% neon signs, 30% sort of tram cars and stuff.
Some of the locations a player can discover and explore in the Sprawl are places like the dungeon and Malcolm the Jester's office, which is attached to the dungeon. There's Councilwoman Ash's office. There's, of course, the tavern, the Twisted Sisters. Garby and his Emporium of Wonder is located in the alley behind the tavern. And some other locations are the Grand Hall and the Docks. The Docks was the last location to be introduced into the game and finalized art-wise, all of that. And I think it's one of the prettiest locations that we have.
Our art team had a field day. I would say one of the greatest joys was when they would, as they do art drops. So it's usually on Friday when the art team will sort of reveal what they've been working on all week. And yeah, it's just it's been such a treat to work through these backgrounds, and there's just so many Easter eggs to find, so many pop culture references, video game references in literally every background. I think that's one of the coolest things about our game.
One of my favorite locations that players are going to see outside the guard shed is the Twisted Sisters Tavern. It's kind of a hub location for the world. So it's meant as a kind of really cozy, safe space in comparison to whatever's happening in the Sprawl. And I think it creates a really nice hub that the players would love coming back to. Something I want to shout out not only visually is it has one of my favorite pieces of music in it as well. So the background music for the tavern is probably my favorite. I've got it sometimes on repeat in certain places. The way that these environments contribute to the atmosphere of the whole world is that when we set the game inside the shed for a long time, we realized we had this big location, the Sprawl, that we couldn't see. And that was something we wanted to bring in. And because we all like adventure games, exploring kind of an explore mode is really, really fun for us.
I think we always knew it was going to be epic, and we always knew it was going to be funny. I think what I didn't realize was that it was going to be melancholy. So I think that's something that comes out through the locations. And I'd say the way that our art team captured the spirit of the backgrounds, especially later in the game, which shows the impact of this city being at war and under siege. I feel like the background arts convey a lot of that tension, a lot of that sort of melancholy that I didn't see coming.
So yeah, Lil Guardsman has gone through a big redesign visually from sort of our first vertical slice that we built. And originally we started with Scott doing the majority of the writing, all of the writing, because we were a very small team at the time, and then me doing all of the illustrations and the visuals in the game. And I think we quickly realized that the vision, as much as we try to keep a very tight, small game, we're still an indie studio, we wanted to tell a bigger story, so we brought in extra folks to kind of do that, and very quickly fell in love with sort of the art design of our art director, Hoffa, who has these amazing, very vivid characters, and Bruno, who does a lot of our backgrounds, and kind of the way the two of them work together to tell this really great visual story.
When we originally came up with the concept, there was an early version that was in first-person perspective, sort of like Papers, Please, where you just see the window of the shed and people come forward. But I think we wanted to, like Artem was saying, show more of the world, so we went to the perspective that's now in-game. And I still love that version that Artem created. I still love that Artem's the sort of playable prototype demo version. But then yeah, when we brought on Hoffa and Bruno, it leveled up to the beautiful game we have today.
A moment I'm excited for a player to discover, or an Easter egg I'm excited to have discovered. There are a lot, and it's really hard for me to pin down just one specifically. A certain doll, I'll say. There's a doll hidden in every location, and I think I've gotten all of them, but I'd bet money that there's some that I've missed, or just a reference I've missed in general.